My name is Sue Key. I'm a business development manager in IoT at Boston Networks. We're based just outside Glasgow in Scotland. So my personal journey to IoT is, I guess I've had a broadly technology, but mainly business focused background. As you know, we did product design engineering at Glasgow. And then I did a master's in IT, which led me to 15 years in IBM. So very business focused there, but with a obviously technology background. And then more recently, I've been in sort of more innovation roles. I was in a satellite applications role at the University of Strathclyde for a short while, which gave me a really good understanding of the innovation landscape in Scotland, which was a great background for when I landed myself in Boston Networks at the start of this year. So I've only been 6 months in IoT. And it's a great place to be in Scotland. So Boston Networks has been around for about 20 years. We have been doing all sorts of connectivity, cabling, wireless, CCTV, fire and security stuff for a number of years. And then we ventured into IoT with a large project called IoT Scotland, which launched just over a year ago. It's a £6 million project with about £2.6 million of that coming from the Scottish Government and the remainder coming from the economic agencies, Scottish Enterprise, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and from Boston Networks ourselves. So we are deploying and managing Scotland's national LoRaWAN network called IoT Scotland. So obviously lockdown has put a bit of a spanner in the works for deploying that network. So we've not had a whole lot of activity for the last 3 months in terms of rolling out the network. But we have made good progress. We've got good coverage across Glasgow, Edinburgh. We've got coverage in the Borders, the Western Isles. We've got spots of coverage in Inverness, Dundee, Stirling, and other areas. But our plan over the next year or so is to really have full coverage across the country. Certainly all the urban areas and rural where it's required. Scotland obviously has a lot of rural, we always like to pride ourselves in Scotland about being a good test bed because we've got a lot of different types of environments. We've got a lot of island communities as well as densely populated cities and so on. So we hope to have that network rolled out within the next year, and really the purpose there is to just start getting Scotland on the map in terms of IoT, and by providing that network and just allowing people to play with it, to test it, do R&D projects, to get up and running, whether you're developing those technologies or a user of the technologies. We want to remove the barrier of infrastructure and just make it open and available for people to start adopting.
Cool. And as a Scot doing all these interviews, I felt we had to have Scotland represented as part of
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of what I'm doing at the moment is, you're speaking to people who are rolling out, say, a smart city network, taking on the project to roll out, but at a national scale, is a very difficult thing. And the geography and also the very rural population in Scotland means it is a tough challenge. So well done for doing it.
Yeah, but actually that's part of the benefit of IoT as a connectivity, and we're very mindful of the fact that, there are huge challenges in getting connectivity to rural populations, and they are often quite deprived or quite behind in a digital context. They might not have good mobile coverage, they might not even be on 3G, never mind 4G or 5G. So we're kind of putting that rural context up front and centre and making sure that because the benefits that can be realised there are massive. And in fact, we have a really good example that's a project that's ongoing at the moment with the Highland Council. Highland as a region is really interesting because it's huge, but it's quite sparsely populated in real terms. And we have a project that's running on IoT Scotland. The Highland Council is the customer, and working with a company called M2M Cloud, who are based in Dundee, and they have a Neptune water monitoring solution. So it's about just measuring, excuse me, the temperature of the water and identifying the risks of bacteria, like, for example, Legionella. So in the Highland region, it is the best possible test bed for that type of application, because they've got guys driving miles for days across the country to go and take a measurement, you know, whatever, once a month. Isn't it so empowering to be able to measure that data all the time, you know, several times a day, and make better decisions about the safety of that water system in that school or in that council building or those premises, whatever they are? You're saving the time of the employees. You're helping the environment by not pumping fuel into the air, and you're making better decisions about that environment. That's the perfect use case for IoT, and it's demonstrated really well in the Highland region. So that's a project that we like talking about a lot.
That's a brilliant example, actually. And again, you know, if it means that you don't need to get in your car, you don't have all that waste of time, as well as the environmental,
Yeah.
and you've got the data when
Yeah.
you do it. So it's all about those data-driven decisions.
Absolutely.
Before we get too much into that detail, let's take a big step back. And you know, you're relatively new to the IoT landscape, but actually sometimes that's the best way to see it, with really fresh eyes. So if I asked you the question, what does IoT mean to you? How would you answer that?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this question because I knew you were going to ask it. And yes, I'm probably a really good person to give an opinion on that because I am so new. So I had to kind of do my research again and just check my understanding. And so I'm going to just reference a book that I read, which looks back to front to me, but I hope you can read it, The Future of IoT. So I think they've sort of, and I'll try and paraphrase if you'll humour me for a minute, but they've kind of described a journey, an evolution from product to data centric. And so starting with a product, so, you know, for example, an air conditioner in your home, it does what it's supposed to do. You turn it on, you turn it off, it's a product. Next step is the smart product. And that's where I think everyone thinks that's IoT, smart devices. So you might have it programmable so that it comes on and off at a certain time or based on ambient temperature or whatever, and it's now smart. The next step, which is really where IoT is getting into, is a smart connected product. And that's where your air conditioner is connected to the internet. Right? So now you're able to control it from your phone, for example, so you might not need to be in the house, and you can intervene and take action when you want. And that data about the performance of the product can be sent to the manufacturer, so they can start to infer things about how all of their products are working across the whole range. And then really where we start to get into really interesting insights is where you start looking at systems, product systems, right? So now maybe your air conditioner is talking to your heating system, is maybe talking to your window blinds or whatever else you can connect together. They're all related products, but, you know, isn't it good for them to work together? And for, you know, there's no point in having your heating on and the air conditioning on at the same time, so you can make better use of your energy. And then the real future, the real sweet spot for the Internet of Things is the system of systems. So where you get now unrelated products talking to each other. So again, in your home context, that may be, so you've got heating, ventilation, air conditioning stuff. Why not also talk to your security system or your electric vehicle charging point? You know, why not make better use of the electricity that you're using? You know, your brain could then burst with the possibilities of the efficiencies, you could say, the security of your home, and a whole raft of other things. So I quite like the way that they've demonstrated that journey of IoT from a product-centric view of the world to a data-driven view of the world. And so I think a lot of people have this concept of IoT as a smart product. You know, it's about remote sensing, about sensors doing stuff. the sensors are not smart, they're not clever. It's about the generation of data and being able to make sensible insights into that and actionable things from that. So that's probably quite a wordy answer, but that's how I like to think about it.
Oh, articulated brilliantly. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's moving away from thinking like this, and then actually you can just keep going. Like yeah, and some people say it's going to be the most powerful. Next revolution is as powerful as a computer was, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think that we are yet, well, certainly I'm not able to yet see the full impact. I think that we will have our eyes opened as the years go by, and now particularly that we're all in lockdown and dealing with COVID-19, and I think this is the perfect springboard for us to really benefit from sensors doing stuff that mean people don't have to go and do it themselves. So it's a really interesting time.
Great. Now you, normally at this point I ask about the ecosystem, but in some ways you're helping set up the ecosystem. So I'm really interested to hear the types of companies that you're speaking to and what they're asking for. So, you're saying there that you're setting a project up for the Highland Council. So your customers are the smart cities, your customer is the country. Maybe you could just talk through kind of that ecosystem that, as you see it within Scotland, and kind of what that landscape looks like today.
Yeah, sure. So definitely with a Scotland view, I would say honestly, Scotland is probably a bit further behind a lot of other countries in terms of adoption of IoT. I see a lot more activity happening in mainland Europe and a lot more embracing of the technologies, which is not to say that there's not anything happening here. I mean, certainly I think at a local authority level, there's a lot of activity here embracing things like intelligent street lighting and maybe smart bin management, waste management, about routing lorries to make better efficiencies. So from an ecosystem point of view, yes, there's a lot going on in Scotland, but there's still a lot of work to do. We do have a lot of companies that are at the other side of the technology, developing the dashboards and the applications that are quite use case specific. I mentioned M10 Cloud earlier, who have a water monitoring solution. We're also work with a company called Wilderness Sensors, who have footfall counting devices and that whole application to understand. Again, really interesting in this COVID-19 context. How have people started to use public spaces differently? How can you infer when is a good time to go outside, that you're not going to be in a really busy hotspot? So these sorts of things. But so, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I speak to everyone from sensor manufacturers to potential end users, whether they're public sector or private sector. Everybody's a potential user of IoT. But it's not just in Scotland, and I don't think we'll ever have the answer in one country. And we're members of the LoRa Alliance. We're a LoRaWAN network, and I think that's an incredible forum for people to collaborate. And I guess the point of LoRaWAN is it's open access, open protocol, and so there's a lot of collaboration across everybody, trying to share information and drive the technology to support the customer need. So we work with companies, a lot of other countries as well, to help us respond to the needs of customers. So yeah, the ecosystem it's massive, and I think every day is a school day for me. I meet more people all the time and meet customers with new use cases all the time. Every sector, whether it's forestry or energy or healthcare or tourism or smart cities or traffic management, it just, the list goes on and on and on. So the ecosystem is everybody.
Okay, so with that, like with the possibilities being so big and the ecosystem being so complex, you know, and the fact that you're just beginning to make sure that the infrastructure is in place, which is one of the most basic kind of things that need to be in place in order for everyone to go do business and feel the benefits. With you speaking to all of these different people, kind of what advice do you have for people who are kind of getting started with their IoT project or wanting to come into this space or use IoT, adopt IoT to help them make better decisions or gather data that they don't have before?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those people getting started?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, it's about doing your homework. And yeah, it's so easy to be kind of that rabbit in headlights and overwhelmed with information and marketing from hundreds of different companies that are manufacturing sensors and having, you know, different solutions to challenges. There's a lot of information out there, and I think what's key is, and I guess this is part of your initiative launching IoT, it's all about people. I think if you have partnerships with people that you trust and that you can work with and that are at the right level for you as a potential customer, then that's going to stand you in good stead to start with. But you don't need to be an expert, I think, in anything. I think as long as you find the right partners to work with, you know, you don't need to own your own private network, right? And that's a big part of what IoT Scotland is about. You know, let us do that bit for you. We've got the expertise in the infrastructure and in deploying it and running it and maintaining it. You know, we'll take away that headache of all the license fees and having to go out and maintain the hardware. You know, you just work on the business case, and that's the main bit of advice I would give. It's got to be a compelling business case. So you don't just adopt IoT because it's a cool thing and it's the new buzzword and everyone's got to have it. You know, it should be part of your holistic business plan. It has to address a really specific need. You know, IoT might not be the silver bullet that you need. You might be part of a wider program of technology, but that's, I guess, just understand what is the cost that you're trying to save. How can you measure the success of your project? Because you need to be absolutely sure that the cost and the time that you invest in that project is going to be worthwhile in the end.
Cool. And that's a nice segue to my final question, which is really about what is success. So there's lots of different kind of things from success, and different people are driven by different things. Different projects want different things. But I'm asking this to you as a person also, because people have got their personal kind of success and also the business success. So what does success mean to Sue? What does success look like?
Okay, so I think there's probably 3 boxes that I would like to tick so that I could say, okay, I'll retire now, I'm happy. So number 1 would be huge, overwhelming success of IoT Scotland. I want the network to be flooded with tens of thousands of sensors, you know, and not just, yes, there's a commercial reason for that, of course there is. You know, we're a business and we want to be commercially successful. But also I want to demonstrate that we were right, we were right, the Scottish Government and the Scottish enterprise were right to invest in this technology. And that will in turn support box number 2, tick, which is to help Scotland grow. You know, because we're providing the infrastructure, the connectivity. So every time we win, it's because somebody else is winning. So whether it's the end user or the technology developer, the provider of, you know, the application, the dashboard, whatever, I would love for masses of companies in Scotland to benefit from IoT technologies and to succeed because of it. And then I think the third one is I guess, from more of a kind of altruistic perspective. One of the initiatives that we have recently is kind of IoT Scotland for Good. So we've opened up the network for free for companies that want to use the technology for responding to COVID-19. So, you know, if you're wanting to adopt technology to help monitor vulnerable people who are at home, or if you want to like track assets in a hospital or do better like workflow management, you know, in a supermarket or in a hospital or whatever, if it's related to getting Scotland back to, you know, whatever we can call normal in the future, then we want to do that and help support companies by offering the network for free to do that. So if we can get some real leverage on that side of things as well, then that will make me feel great.
Oh, that's a lovely point to stop. So thank you very much, Sue. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Lovely to speak to you, Christine.